Hi, dear students, how are you today? We are going to see Unit 10 on your Ready for First book, and this is the unit of the grammar that talks about the passive mainly, and there is also a little section at the beginning about the uses of to and enough. So, as you know, is it much better if you read the unit before and then you follow it with me through this video? Okay, so let's get it started. First, the uses of to and enough. We are in point A. To means more than is necessary. So we have like different ways to use it. The first one is to plus an adjective or an adverb. For example, this jumper is too big, or don't work too hard, or you are driving too quickly, or I am too tired, right? And then if you want to use a noun, you have to use too much and too many. But remember that too much is for an uncountable noun and too many is for plural countable. Too much money, too many euros. So I can't eat this. There's too much salt in it. There are too many people here. Let's go somewhere else. I feel terrible. I've eaten too much. Okay. Then we have in point 3 the structure to plus adverb or an adjective for someone to do something. For example, it's too cold to play tennis today. If you don't use an object, you just do that. I mean, it's too dark to go out right now because it's at night. But if you want to introduce an object, you can say to a child, okay, it's too late for you to go out with your friends. Or you could use it with the same subject. It's too cold for me to go running right now. So you can do it this way. Then we have enough. Enough means as much as is necessary. And enough has two positions. The first one is an adjective or an adverb plus enough. For example, are you warm enough or shall I turn the heating on? Or you haven't done your homework carefully enough? So remember, if you are using an adjective, enough goes after. For example, I am old enough to retire. It's not true, but maybe. Okay. Or you could use it with a negative. You aren't tall enough to play basketball. The other position is when we use enough with a noun. So in this case, enough comes first. We'll have to stand because there aren't enough chairs. Or I'll buy some more bread because we haven't got enough. So if we want to use enough, we have to think if we are using it with an adjective or if we are using it with a noun. So as an example, I could say the same idea in two different ways. For example, I could say, I don't have enough money, or I could say, I am not rich enough. Okay, so that's it. Then you can also use enough with this structure that we saw before and say enough for someone to do something. The floor is clean enough for you to sit on, or I haven't got enough time to see you today, right? Now we are going to move on to the passive, right? To make a passive in a literal way, you need to use the verb to be and then the participle. So if I want to say something like someone cleans this house every day, to make the passive, I can take the house and start with this and say the house is cleaned every day. How to make the different tenses in the passive, right? So when you have the verb in the corresponding tense in the active, you have to use the verb to be in the corresponding tense in the passive and then use the participle in this way. For example, In present, say, goods worth £750 million are stolen from shops each year, which means that people steal goods, right? If we have present continuous, like a man is being questioned in connection with the robbery, means that they are questioning a man. That will be in the active, and so on. Present perfect, photos of the suspects have been put up around the town. So that means like they have put up photos of the suspects around the town. Past simple would be he was taken away in a police van. So they took him away in a police van. That would be the active. Past continuous, the burglar didn't realize he was being filmed. So someone was filming, right? So that would be the active. Past perfect, two people have been mugged there on the previous day, and so on. Like, for example, in the future, all football supporters will be searched at the airport. So in the active will be like security people will search all football supporters. The infinitive, he's hoping to be released from prison next week. Okay? And the ing and the modal verbs. The use. Okay. Some people wonder, okay, why should I use the passive or when? So there are like two different things. Sometimes we don't really know who the agent of the action is. So if we are going to use active, we could use things like someone, people, but that's really vague. So maybe you don't really know and you can use the passive, right? When you don't really know who is the agent. Okay, the car was stolen. Who stole the car? Who knows? If we knew, right, we could report it, obviously. So first, when we don't really know. Also, we can use the passive if we know who did it, but maybe we don't care or it's not relevant. Fine. So maybe you can say, well, this restaurant is cleaned every day. Obviously, there's a person who cleans the restaurant, but maybe it's not relevant to know exactly whom. The relevant thing is that it's cleaned, so that's why we use it too. We also use the passive when the agent is obvious. For example, he was arrested last night. Obviously, we could say he was arrested by the police, but to be honest, only the police can arrest you, so it's obvious, right? So we can omit it. Having said so, if we know the agent, we can like say it and mention it at the end of a sentence. I use by, right? So, for example, Guernica was painted by Picasso, right? Or we could say Picasso painted the Guernica. So why are we using one or the other? Okay, if we want to give more importance or more relevance to the painting, that's why we are using Guernica was painted by Picasso, because what it counts first has more importance. If we want to give more relevance to the painter, we'd use the active and say Picasso painted Guernica. So that's something that you will realize eventually. Yes. Also, passive is used for a style. When it comes to technical text or really formal language or things like journalism, the passive is used. Also, you use the passive when to avoid notices, to avoid telling people you mustn't do this, because it might sound a bit rude or violent or whatever. So instead of saying you mustn't smoke, you can like put up a notice to say smoking is not permitted. Right? So it's not that personal. Fine. If you want to use a passive and say, you know, something that was used to do the action and not who did the action, you can use with. he was hit on the head with a base. Yeah. Right, the vase was repaired with tape, right? So if the agent is people in general, it doesn't really make sense, say, by people. For example, Texas is known as the Lone Star State, right? Um, you could say by people, but I mean, saying by people or by someone doesn't make sense. You don't need to do it. Then we have the passive of the reporting verbs, which is a bit more complicated. And this structure we'll look into it in more detail in class and with some practice. But the infinitive can be used after the passive of reporting verbs to talk about widely held beliefs or opinions. So this kind of passive is used with verbs like believe, consider, expect, know, say, and think. For example, the president is expected to arrive at 9:30 a.m. That means that everybody expects or that the president will arrive at 9:30, but you start with the president, right? Or the man is believed to be carrying a weapon. So everybody believes that the man is carrying a weapon, right? If you want to express past, you use the perfect infinitive. That will be like have plus past participle. 15 people are known to have died in the accident. So in the accident will be like everybody knows that 15 people died in the accident, right? So that's it. Just have a very nice day. See you. Bye.